A judge rejects the attempt of blue state attorneys general to roll back the Department of Education's mandate guaranteeing due process for young men accused of sexual assault. You heard that right. 17 Democrat-controlled cesspools, states, and hundreds of universities decided that your sons should have their constitutional rights waived simply by setting foot on college campuses. I hope you remember that in November. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms at college campuses around the world. Today, we start with a really vile story where Democrat blue state attorney generals, and you know they're doing this at the behest of their governors, including Wisconsin, with our Skeletor Governor Tony Evers and his ridiculous attorney general. They filed suit to roll back what Betsy DeVos did. Betsy DeVos actually fixed the unconstitutional move of Barack Obama. Barack Obama, when he was president, wrote a Dear Colleague letter to the Title IX people, said, hey, let's stop giving boys a legal fighting chance. When boys are accused of sexual assault, let's not let them have their own lawyers. Let's not let them be able to question their accuser. Let's hold them to a completely unconstitutional standard. Your universities, your left-wing universities, were all over that, doing all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, Betsy DeVos comes along, Donald Trump is elected president, and Betsy DeVos rolls that back. She gave your young boys a fighting constitutional chance when they are falsely or altogether accused of sexual assault. This doesn't give them more rights than women. It just levels the legal playing field as the founding fathers and the Constitution demanded we do. And of course, what did your 17 blue state Democrat governors and AGs, what do? They tried to get that overturned because Katie will share some of the reasons with you in a moment, but there's not a single coherent reason that makes any sense at all for why they did this. Thankfully, a judge, a Donald Trump appointee, actually shot down their request. So think about that in November, too.
All right. Well, it's Judge Carl J. Nichols who is the one who denied the AGs their motion to block these, what they're calling the new Title IX regulations, really what should have been there all along. But this has been an ongoing process. We've talked about it many a time now. And the fact, it's what we do in our political system. If the opposite party is in power, we're going to band together and try and block anything, delay it. So these 17 blue state attorneys general tried to block, and guess what? They weren't successful, as you said. So they had claimed, these AGs, they claimed that these new rules would reverse decades of effort to end the corrosive effects of sexual harassment on equal access to education. This ignores the fact that denying due process makes it easier for false accusations to limit access to education and does nothing to stop actual sexual harassment.
Yeah, this is not simply another case of, okay, Republicans have power, so Democrats are going to fight this. They weren't really coming after Trump. They were coming after the Constitution on this. And that's what sets this apart. What you have to recognize, Mom and Dad, in this brave new post-COVID, radical progressive Black Lives world, what's at stake here is not Donald Trump, not one more Republican candidate. So you may be thinking to yourself, Trump is crass, Trump is venal, Trump is in some ways loose cannon. He offends my suburban female sensibilities. I'm going to vote for Biden. You do that. But recognize this. You are not voting for the ouster of Donald Trump. You are voting for a party, candidates, you're voting for a progressive wing of the Democrat Party who are attacking the very Constitution. What Donald Trump's Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, did, and I've been hard on her. I don't think she's done nearly enough. I don't think she's gone nearly as fast as she should have. I think that she has been dishonest with us about Common Core and things like that. Nevertheless, she did a really good thing here. She gave young men a constitutional fight, a constitutional basis on which they can fight back. Katie pointed out that these things now have been spilling into the court. There have been dozens and dozens of examples of these poor young men who were falsely accused. It's demonstrable now that they got no justice from the university. They were not allowed to tell their side of the story. They were not allowed to confront their accuser. They weren't even allowed to see all the evidence that was brought against them. How do you defend yourself if you don't know what you're being attacked for? And so when these things, after years of being suspended, they spill out into the courts, what happens? Over and over and over again, Democrats throw the case out. There was no basis for it, and even Democrat judges will say that these kids were denied their due process rights, and Democrats want to keep that rolling. Remember that.
Well, in these AGs, they were taking issue basically with the fact that these new regulations actually limit who can make these accusations. And of course, this is unfair. Like what's happening, they're saying it's unfair. And they're saying the whole point of Title IX, getting into this whole sexual harassment and assault was to claim accusers had their educational opportunities. We got to remember that Title IX is with education. And so if the sexual assault claims are coming, they're not even a student, then their educational opportunities can't be limited by a school. So they were kind of messing with that.
If you were a non-student who accused a student of sexual assault, the university would investigate the student.
Exactly. So Judge Nichols denied these claims, and he said that he basically scolded. They're saying in the news that he scolded them for attempting to supplant their views with that of the education department. For example, the AGs argued schools should be responsible for adjudicating sexual assaults that occurred off campus, such as at apartment buildings. The ed department, however, adopted a more narrow view of what situations fall under the purview of the college. That just makes, I guess, common sense to me, but the AGs are trying to wiggle their way in to take as much control as they can.
Congratulations to Judge Nickel for telling them what they are.
Right.
You are trying to put your personal political preferences above the Constitution. That's what you're doing. And I think that they need to go a lot further with this. There should be no reason why universities investigate sexual assault. A sexual assault is a sexual assault. It is a crime. When somebody sexually assaults somebody in a Target changing room, Target may indeed look into it, but it's not a Target legal case. Universities, given how venal and anti-First Amendment and highly politicized and dangerously incompetent how these universities are, they should have no business being able to adjudicate any kind of rape or sexual assault on a college campus. Those are serious crimes. And I'm speaking this on behalf of those girls, too. How many of those young girls who filed complaints against boys that may have been true, but because those boys were denied due process, the judge threw them out. You are not helping anybody, least of all women on college campuses. Universities, stick to what you do badly, educating kids, and stop trying to appropriate what actual lawyers do. But then again, when you think about how 17 chief lawyers in Democrat states thought this was a good idea, just Mom, Dad, remember this in November. You're not necessarily voting for Donald Trump. You're voting to keep these clowns out of office.
Since we're talking about being back on campus, here's a headline for you. University of Michigan to incoming students. Quit your job 14 days before you return to campus. So the University of Michigan, they're going to be going back to campus at the end of August. And that means that, any students who plan to be on campus, they better have quit their jobs by now. Because in a fall planning update, it's kind of a letter they put out there on the internets, they said all UM students who do decide to return to campus must observe a 14-day period of enhanced social distance at home before arriving in Ann Arbor or on campus. It is an important part of our strategy to minimize risk and keep COVID-19 out of our community. Okay, this means you can't go to work or to school or to social gatherings. They also said in this little bullet point list, if you can see it there, that you're supposed to be taking your temperature twice a day. Make sure you don't have it. Watch for symptoms. Avoid any public transportation, any taxis. Make sure, obviously, stay 6 feet apart. Wear a face covering when in public settings or while interacting with others outside of your home.
How douche-tastic. And it would be the University of Michigan with that annoying fight song, right? Hail to the douches valiant. Hail, hail, hail to the losers of the West. Sorry, guys. I have personal reasons to dislike,
yes, you do.
dislike Michigan. However, this is really cheesy and stupid. What this is, I have never seen, watching my own university trying to deal with this COVID stuff, I have never seen, and watching the public schools, I have never seen more so-called educators really just want to get out of educating. Yeah. They don't want this. Michigan would like to knock this down. They would not have, the University of Michigan administrators would want nothing to do with this. They know they can't do it though, right? They can't, can you imagine if professors started behaving like public school teachers and doing die-ins? That may yet come. I can see that. Could you just not see that happening at Michigan?
Oh,
That would be the perfect place. I mean, that's outside of Berkeley and the Ivy League. That's the perfect place. But come on, Michigan, seriously, are you this cold? You claim to care about your kids. Everything you do, you're doing for your students, you tell us, right? With your overpriced non-Ivy League, pretend Ivy League school. And yet there you sit now and you're telling kids who have to work to pay you prices to come to your schools with all those fees, all that student fees, all that money they still collect. They're still collecting student fees off of your money, whether you're there or not. They're still using all of this tuition money to front all of their social justice programs and all their 80-something diversity officers that you've got. And you're telling those kids now that you're going to come to our school until we tell you not, because 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the class begins and you can't get your money back, then they may send you home.
May,
right? They will send you home.
We should put a date on that.
You can't work. You are not allowed to work to make money. You can't go in an Uber or a Lyft. You're going to have to socially isolate yourself to have the privilege of coming back to Wolverine Central.
But as it says, it's, in support of our community. It's all about them togetherness.
There's somehow, as a Big Ten guy, somehow it begins to make sense to me why so many Big Ten sports teams are named after vermin. Badgers and gophers and Wolverines. Give me a toxic nut any day.
All right. Well, one of the things that out of that whole list that really opened my eyes a little bit is that they are not allowed to move on campus if they test positive, and testing is required. Mm-hmm. So you have to get tested.
How are they going to get to the test, though?
If they haven't been... Oh, good point.
I mean, they can't...
Drive-by. It's going to be Windows off drive-by.
They'll send testers to your house.
And they also must complete an online learning module serving as an overview of COVID-19 because the University of Michigan, they have the vaccine. They have it all figured out. So obviously, everyone in the whole wide world should be taking this little COVID-19 overview. But if you read the letter, you can really see, without coming out and saying, stay home, we don't want to teach, they're trying to keep kids off campus. Because they did put there saying, well, there are about 70% of our courses are going to be available remotely, and we're going to have many hybrid courses too. So here you go.
Just take back. Bottom line, send us your money in ever-increasing amounts for ever less college experience and education. And then we're going to tell you how you live your private life too. Tell Michigan to go stick it up there.
Okay, we're going to stick around the Big Ten because you seem to love and hate it all at the same time. This time we're going to go into Illinois, where Northwestern University has decided that they want to get rid of all Greek life because, white elitism, clearly. This stems from an anonymous Instagram page. Anonymous, because that's what we do. Anonymous everything. And the page is called Abolish NU IFC PHA, which is Intra-Fraternity Council Pan-Hellenic Association. Their handle is Abolish NU Greek Life. So obviously we have this random Instagram page that was created, and now we all must respond by canceling Greek life at Northwestern University.
Yeah, and this is one of those ways that universities are taking advantage of COVID to do what they wanted to do anyway.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with the vaccine or the virus. It has nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. They just don't like the fact that you have this culture on campus. And it should be also pointed out that almost every single fraternity are service fraternities, right? They do things to support the community. They all have, every year, if not every semester, they have certain causes that they raise and they fundraise and they raise money. They actually do a lot of good. They also do a lot of partying, right? But the fact is that it's waspy, right?
Yes.
Now again, if you watch what Greek life is going to be replaced with. Already, it's too elitist, it's too segregationist, right? But you watch what it's being placed with. Now you're building all dorms for African American students, right? So you're going to have clubs and organizations that are just for LGBTQ people. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have sororities and fraternities. It's just not going to allow white people to do it.
That's pretty much it. So this specific Instagram page just started up not that long ago, a couple weeks ago. It already has more than 200 posts with more than 2,600 followers. And they have all these complaints, basically, that they put in quote form to make it look nice. And it's, of course, anonymous students.
Of course it is. It's probably the same one student in a basement who did this.
And they also include on a lot of these posts that they just keep repeating phone numbers for sexual assault hotlines, suicide hotlines, disordered eating, alcohol, hotlines. And their first post stated, the Interfraternity Council and the Pan-Hellenic Association are complicit in perpetuating harm. We must abolish these organizations which are embedded with racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and classism. In the caption section, then, they said that we are following in the footsteps of our peers at other universities to demand the disbanding and dismantling of institutions which perpetuate harm against marginalized people. Yeah, okay.
Have you got one example yet? All of that word soup.
Word soup.
Is there a single example of how this hurts any black people?
So here's a post sample. One I found, the anonymous supposed white former Northwestern University student said, Greek life allows rich white people to live in a rich white bubble for 4 years.
Right. And what does that have to do with anybody else?
Okay, what's the rest of everyone at a university?
Right.
We're talking about a bubble.
And you're telling me there aren't bubbles for African American and gay kids on college campuses? You tell me there aren't feminists? Those aren't even bubbles. They're hot air balloons where all these other diversity kids get to segregate themselves along all these other terms, and you just don't like the fact that the whitey has something that you don't want, so you're going to take it from him, and then you'll reorganize your own little groups, right? Can you imagine if somebody said to one of these black groups, right, you need to diversify the African American Studies program. You really need to change the Black Lives Matter organization on campus. It not only is it not diverse, it actively campaigns to keep people out who aren't the right race. You would never get away with that. They'd call you a bigot.
Now, I know you know this, but I did my research on all of this. We'll get to that in a moment. That talks about what you were just talking about. But just for the record, at Northwestern University, of the whole university, about 20% of 8,000 students participate. Okay, that's 20%. So that we're not talking about the entire bubble of the university system, which they're all insulated in. And basically throughout all of the month of July, because of all of this, the various sororities on campus, the fraternities, they got together, I don't know, via Zoom, I guess, or maybe they just threw a kegger, and they got together to discuss if they should abolish all this. And so various chapters are meeting together, whether in their national chapter, if they're going to break away. But here's the thing. I took a look at Northwestern University's list of fraternities and sororities. And the very first chapter listed on the website is Alpha Phi Alpha, which is predominantly African American. Sure, so there's that. And then the first frat that was listed under the most popular black fraternities happened to be Alpha Phi Alpha. So, wow, interesting how it's the same one. They also have Delta Sigma Theta, Kappa Alpha Psi, Phi Beta Sigma. Oh my gosh. I do believe a former president named Barack Obama belonged to that one. Zeta Phi Beta and Sigma Gamma Rho. And some of them on this campus, I will say that they are dormant, but it did say on their website that they're trying to be reactivated. So there's that.
Right, and you've got sororities, which by definition shield women from men, right? Allow women to associate socially without the presence of men, which used to be a very feminist tenet, right? But not anymore. So you see what this is. What this reminds me of is the typical stereotyping that the bigoted racist stereotyping that the left says they hate, but they do it against their enemies, right? So on the one hand, fraternities, sororities are places where Lovey Howell from the Gilligan's Island and all of her friends sit sipping tea with the fingers extended. On the other hand, it's Animal House.
Dang it, I was going to say, right? I was so proud of you for not referencing Animal House. We were
right?
that close.
In the same way that, the stereotype is that blacks are these rough thugs with pants around their hips, right? On the other hand, they're winsome Christian victims. That's bad. But now you turn around here and you do the same. It's either Lovey Howell or it's, what's his name? Bluto Blutarski.
Yes.
0.00. May God have mercy on your soul.
It's time for some real education. Coral Castle is an oolite limestone structure created by the Latvian-American artist Edward Leedskalnin. It's located in Miami-Dade County, Florida, between the cities of Homestead and Leisure City. The structure comprises numerous megalithic stones, mostly limestone, formed from coral, each weighing several tons. It's currently a privately operated tourist attraction, noted for legends surrounding its creation that claim it was built single-handedly by Leedskalnin, using reverse magnetism or supernatural abilities to move and carve numerous stones, each weighing many, many tons.
Yeah, and one of the most interesting, fascinating facts about this guy was a loner. I admire this guy. I mean, I'm not sure me and actual physical labor don't go too well together.
No, they don't.
But I admire this guy. I mean, this guy has, what the singular purpose of his life was to get the hell away from people, which we can, very COVID-y friendly, get the hell away from people and engage in his own kind of artistic endeavor, which was building these incredible constructed, show some of the images, Mike. I mean, these are really heavy examples of stone, really, that he's moving around and carving. Show the other one. Get a sense of these, it's almost Danish modern, right? You've got all these obelisks, you've got all of these huge spheres, you've got this huge thing called Rockgate, which was the first thing that he started. Go ahead to the next one. There's Rockgate. That was his first project for this whole thing. He created a great, huge monolith, a rock gate. It almost looks like a Jenga with like giants playing Jenga. And it's kitschy. It's very Florida. I mean, it's exactly what you'd put it back next to the world's biggest ball of yarn. It would be fun. Something for kids to climb. It's kind of like petrified Lego in some ways. And that has that nice petrified Lego. And there you get a broad sense of it. It's a little happy little palm tree. You can walk through it, probably charge you $20 a person to get in. What kind of possible maintenance can there be, by the way, for just great big stone Lego blocks? Nevertheless, it's the kind of thing you would very touristy, very Route 66, right? But you got to admire this guy because of the way he handled all of this. He constructed this massive sculpture. I showed you the gate first, called Rockgate, working alone and at night. Leedskalnin eventually quarried and sculpted more than 1,100 tons of oolite limestone into architectural and engineering landmarks that would later be known as the Coral Castle. He eventually opened it to the public, offering tours for 10 cents. When people were asking him how he moved, this is the key, how did you move all that heavy stone on his own? He usually replied, I understand the laws of weight and leverage, and I know the secrets of the people who built the pyramids. Ooh. It's like, one of the dumbest TV shows that I sometimes watch is this alien one about these guys that look like they should be working at Walmart, sitting around talking about how aliens came to this world thousands of years ago and built the pyramids. Wow. What's really interesting about this, though, is he clearly did it. But he never gave up his secret. He went to his grave without telling anybody how he was able to manipulate this kind of stuff without real machinery. Again, Leedskalnin was an eccentric. He was kind of a goofy guy. He lived on an exclusive diet of crackers and sardines. That's all he ate. Would hate to follow that guy into the bathroom. In his later years, he starved himself. And on November 9th, 1951, he checked himself into the Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami. Apparently, he had suffered a stroke either before or after he left the hospital, died 28 days later of kidney infection at the age of 64, leaving us this monumental monument to nobody really knows what.
All right. As always, you can follow us on Facebook and Parler. And if you have any questions for us, please feel free to visit freedomproject.com/askduke and send them our way. Now we're going to wrap things up with the fun fact of the day. Of all of Congress, 76% belong to a fraternity. Just think about that. 76% of all Congress. Since the first social fraternity was founded in 1825, every president and VP, with the exception of 2 in each office, had been members of a fraternity. So, President Trump, Vice President Pence, both belong actually to Phi Gamma Delta at University of Pennsylvania there. And then Harris, the VP candidate, Kamalama Ding Dong Harris, is actually a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha. So.
Yeah. Well, remember when we had to hear about Skull and Bones all that time when George Bush was running? So for the Biden and Kamala, don't mispronounce her name, or you're a racist. The Biden Kamala ticket, instead of Skull and Bones, you've got Dull and Stones. How about that? And that's going to do it for our show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, keep your letters in English, not Greek, my friends.